Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to my studio. This is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks so much for joining me. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to the channel and check out the other videos. And if you're here for a second, third, or fourth time, thank you so much for coming back and getting creative. Alright guys, it's going to be another fun painting today by Vincent van Gogh. So grab your supplies, transfer your traceable to your surface, and as always, make sure you take your progress photos. Now on mine, I did go over my traceable lines with a black Sharpie marker, and that's for those of you at home that are going to pause the video and draw what you see. If you're utilizing just the traceable, just jump right into painting. And we are starting off with that little medium flat brush and light blue paint. And if your shade is a little darker or lighter than mine, that's okay. Or if you even want to switch out colors, go right ahead and do that. Now we're going to be filling in that back wall. We'll go in between the rungs on that chair and right up next to the door. And then we'll be making a darker color for that doorway on the right-hand side. If you need to, feel free. You can switch out to a different brush, smaller or larger brush, whatever you might need. And if you have to mix your color a second or third time, don't stress about getting the exact same shade. If you have a little variety, it just makes your painting more intriguing and more unique. Now, if you are holding your breath as you're applying your paint, take a big exhale and inhale and just relax. It may be kind of scary to paint at home, but you're going to feel better at the end of the painting and a little more relaxed. All right, so it's got that one side of the wall covered. Now we're going to actually make a little bit darker blue, and you can see where I am adding a little touch of teal to it. So if you do not have teal, just kind of go with a darker blue. And like I said earlier, you are more than welcome to switch out colors if you want. But you want to go about 2 shades darker, 2 or 3 shades darker than what you were just using on the other side of the wall. And we're going to fill that whole space in, and we'll put some details, a little outlining towards the end of the painting on this section. All right, and if you happen to be painting on a stretched canvas, I do recommend that you carry the color around the sides and the tops of the canvas while you have the color made right now, compared to trying to color match at the end of the painting after it's dry. So here you can see I'm grabbing a little bit of that direct blue and kind of adding a little bit of shading right on top of it, and now adding some of the white. This is called wet on wet blending. You're introducing a new color into that wet background, and it's quite a fun process. So play with that a little bit as you put a darker and lighter shade on that door. All right, so a good place to pause the video and take your progress photo. We're going to move into painting the floor, and that is going to be raw sienna with a little bit of white and then a tiny amount of red and more than a little bit of white. I actually grabbed a bigger chunk than I thought. So white and raw sienna with a little bit of red. We're kind of going for that nice kind of terracotta color. This one's going to be a little bit more red than the next mixtures that we're going to make. And just again, kind of putting it in a few select areas. I am referencing the original painting by Van Gogh, this chair painting. Um, and I am simplifying a little bit, so you can follow along with the video here, or if you want to reference the original and change anything that you observe that I do not add into the video, go right ahead and do that. So now you can see that I've moved into the raw sienna and continuing to fill in those tiles on the floor. So again, just kind of observe the general place where I'm putting each of these colors, the shape, where they overlap, and again, trust your instincts and your power of observation. As you paint this, whether you're following the video or looking at the original painting, you are strengthening your power of observation. And that's a really important art skill and really an important life skill. The more observant you are, I think the more you're going to enjoy your life. I try to be pretty observant and I enjoy my life quite a bit. So hopefully the same can be said for you if you're more observant. All right, so again, just filling in that space. If you end up putting a color somewhere I do not or something different, totally okay. And as you're going in between those rungs on the chair, if you happen to paint right on top of it, don't stress out. We will um, put the appropriate color on top of it. And that is one of the nice things about acrylic paint. If you don't like something, let it dry and you can paint something else on top of it. So for my beginner painters, a lot of wiggle room with acrylic paint. So it's a good thing to start with when you're getting creative. All right, so got almost of that floor done. We're going to be adding some more colors on top of it and some shading. Again, if you happen to be on that stretched canvas, carry this color around the sides. So now we're mixing that raw sienna and red, going darker. And again, this will be going just in kind of select places, slightly mimicking the original. I think I did put this in a few areas that I just felt like it needed it, even though it wasn't on the painting. So again, just do whatever you feel you need to do. All right, now we're going to go for a dark raw sienna. Oh, put in raw sienna a few spots. Here we go. Now the dark raw sienna. And then it's going to be raw sienna with a tiny amount of black. Start off with a small amount. You can always add more, but it should look kind of like a dirty brown or starting to kind of look a little bit like mud. You don't want to be super dark, but just a little bit darker than the raw sienna. All right, and again, placing those in just select areas and um, blending it into that base. That raw sienna from the first layer is still a little bit wet, so it may diffuse the color. All right, and now moving into the raw sienna and yellow, a bit of a warmer, slight highlight. And again, just placing those in a few other select areas right on top of that raw sienna paint. And this is also giving it almost a second layer of paint in some areas. So if you have places where the canvas is showing through, where the paint's a little bit transparent, some of these second layers will give you a bit more opaque coverage. Again, trust your instincts if you're inclined to put it somewhere that you don't see on the video or where you need to cover up some space with canvas showing through. All right, and then a good place to pause the video and take your progress photo. And then we're going to jump into kind of the interesting highlights of the yellow green that are on the floor. That Van Gogh painted. So I pulled a little bit of yellow aside and then a tiny amount of blue to make a shade of kind of a light green. And then I realized that it was not as light as I needed, so I added some white to it. So again, start with your yellow, add a little bit of blue to get to your green, and then to go lighter, add some white. And again, I'm kind of referencing the floor and these little greenish shade highlights that Van Gogh saw when he painted this painting. All right, and it is kind of cool as he painted this and realized that there was a green tint to this, so it was reflecting um, with the light and some of the colors in the room. So as you get more and more into painting, your observation of what colors look like, the tint, the shade, the darkness, the saturation, you'll start becoming a little more observant about those. And it just makes kind of fun, makes every little day adventures just enjoyable and unique. All right, now going back to that raw sienna and yellow, we're going to move over to the little toy box in that back left-hand corner. And again, raw sienna and yellow, kind of fill in that front base, the top edge, and then we will move into a darker shade for the inside of that box. All right, and that darker shade again was that raw sienna, a tiny amount of black to kind of go for your dirty brown, and just filling in that remaining space. There we go. Now, if you are noticing that your paint is pretty transparent, you can hold your brush at a 45-degree angle and not use the ends of the bristles, but by holding that brush at that angle, it allows you to apply the paint a little bit thicker, and you'll get a bit more opaque coverage with that. Here I'm using yellow and white for a few highlights, and again blending it right into that base wet paint from earlier. Again, remember to breathe. You guys are doing a great job. I'm proud of you for painting at home. It gets easier and more comfortable with more practice. So I just grabbed a little bit of that raw sienna, just kind of cleaned up that top edge. And a good place to pause the video and take your progress photo. Now we're going to move into the chair and we're going to start with that light yellow. And that's going to be the white with a little bit of yellow, not quite a 1-to-1 ratio, probably 2 parts white to 1 part yellow. And we're starting with the highlights on the chair, and then we'll go a little bit darker as we move along. Now I am using that middle flat brush, and a lot of times I will hold the brush sideways, so I'm kind of using the long portion of the width of the brush. But if this is not something you're comfortable with, or you don't like it, or you want a little more control, feel free to jump down to the small pointy brush as you work on the chair. And with any of my paintings, again, adjust brush sizes, brush shapes, brush strokes, adjust your colors. Like I said, I really want you guys getting creative and just painting. It's very therapeutic and healthy outlet. So here you can see as I mix the color again, a little bit more yellow got added, probably a 1-to-1 ratio at this point, and then we're going to be moving in with some raw sienna in a moment. And again, remember to breathe. If your brush is shaky as you go to apply in these small spaces, that does mean you're holding your breath. So exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, and that will make your process a little bit easier. All right, smile at yourself. You're doing good. This is coming along nicely. All right, so I'm going to wipe off that brush. We're going to move into the raw sienna and yellow again. And this is a bit of a transparent mixture, so you can see a lot of those Sharpie lines, the Sharpie marker lines underneath this. And we will be putting a second coat and starting to get into the mark making of the standard Van Gogh style when we do the second layer on the seat of the chair. All right, so taking that same yellow and raw sienna mixture, kind of getting some shadow elements on the structure of the chair. And these are just kind of short little dash marks, choppy little brush strokes. Again, it does not have to be perfect. Van Gogh definitely developed his impressionistic style and mark making with each painting that he created and pushed it further and further each time. All right, and if you need to, you can go back with light pressure and blend the two, the darker raw sienna and yellow and the lighter yellow and white mixture, just kind of soften the line. I do recommend that you get out of your chair and look at your painting from a distance of 5 to 10 feet away. Is there anything that you need to adjust when you look at it from that distance? Go back and adjust, and then again, look at it from a distance. So now grabbing some of that raw sienna. Again, it's very transparent, very kind of thin paint. And here's where you'll see me use the brush at a bit more of a 45-degree angle. And when we're done with this step, we'll let it dry before we put our second layer on here. So yeah, pause the video, take your progress photo. Do let this fully dry before you move into this step. And this step, we're going to be making little dash marks, and I am kind of flowing with the direction on the chair. So kind of take note that basically these dash marks are radiating out from the center in each of these 4 directions. So you can kind of mimic that on your painting. And again, I'm using that middle flat brush. I'm almost using the full width of that middle flat brush for each of my dash marks. But if you don't like using this brush, try doing little dash marks with a small pointy brush. No matter which brush that you use, play with the pressure of your brush. Light pressure will create a skinnier line. More pressure will create a bit of a wider line. And varying widths of lines are totally okay in your painting. And as you get more control, you'll be able to assess the width and shape of the lines that you want to make in the future. So right now you're just getting really good practice and getting comfortable with this type of mark making. You're doing great. And see, even from a distance, it already leaves some really nice texture. And we're going to be putting some shadows and highlights on top of this. So right here, we grab that direct yellow, same mark making ability, and maybe watch a few minutes of the video to see where I place this yellow and then place it on your painting. This again is considered a highlight value, and this is what's giving us that 3D aspect um, as we create this 3D aspect on a flat surface. All right, so just placing the highlights with the yellow where they need to go. And then we'll be moving in with a darker shadow value in a moment, placing them on the opposite side of the highlights. All right, doing a great job. So clean that brush. Now we're going to move into that darker shadow, and that's going to be the raw sienna with a little bit of black. Again, just kind of making that dirty brown, and still same mark making on the seat of the chair. And as soon as my hand moves, you can see the place of where the shadow values are going. And I just want you to mimic to the best of your ability, either through looking at the video or looking at the original painting. And just place these darker shadows where you see them on your reference item. And if you happen to see other colors, because you're referencing the original one, by all means, add those other colors and the other things that you see on there. All right, so now we're moving down to that pointy brush again, back to the raw sienna, and we're going back to the kind of the structure of the chair and adding some darker shadows. And the mark making could be little dots or again those little dash marks. And just observe where you see them and mimic that on your canvas. All right, this is coming along nicely. Guys are doing great. And if you change the colors or if you follow this video exactly, please send me pictures. I've seen a few student pictures of this with crazy cool colors. So again, feel free to just kind of have fun and get really expressive with this. So this next color mixture that I'm using, I'm going back to that yellow and raw sienna and kind of just adding that second layer in a few areas, observing where I need a bit more of a shadow with some of the lighter sections on the chair. But again, add it where you need to and add it where you are observing from the video or the original photo. All right, it's coming along nicely. So our next step, we're going to be moving into white paint and putting some pretty intense white highlights and still using that small pointy brush. We're putting these highlights on the top and kind of left-hand side of the chair. Again, just kind of referencing the video or the original painting. And then when you look at your painting from that distance of 5 to 10 feet away, if your instincts are telling you to put a highlight or a shadow somewhere that maybe the original doesn't have it or the video doesn't have it, trust your instincts and go ahead and put it there. If you later decide you don't like it, just paint on top of it again. But the more that you can trust your instincts as you get into your painting groove, the greater your learning curve will actually be. And as I think here I just switched colors. I went back to the yellow and raw sienna just to do a little bit of blending on the other side of that white that I put on there. So make any adjustments to your chair that you need to. Snap your progress photo, and then we're going to be moving into black paint and outlining. And again, fully recommend that you let this dry before you move into doing this with your black paint. And as you work with the brush and your black paint, I'm using the small pointy brush. I want you to play with the pressure. Light pressure will be a smaller line. More pressure is a little bit of a wider line. And for my beginner painters, if you have varying widths of line in your painting, totally okay. Now, on this particular painting, there are 2 items in the original painting that I left out on this one. So that is your homework, is to go find what those 2 items are, add them to your painting, and then it makes it even more of the Van Gogh chair painting. So thank you guys so much for painting and getting creative with me. Please do not wait too long to do your next painting. And until then, have a great day. Cheers. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the process of painting and I hope you are happy with how your paintings turned out. I'm really proud of you for getting creative. As you're uploading these to social media, please tag me at or hashtag paintwithlovejoy or email me your pictures paintwithlovejoy@gmail.com. I really enjoy seeing them. I try to post them on social media to encourage other beginner painters to try the process of painting. But please share this with your community as well. Anybody who is kind of scared to paint, share your experience with them and let them know kind of how much you benefited from it and how much you enjoyed the process. So kind of share the fun. With that being said, if you have any comments, questions, feedback, things that you want me to paint in the future, please leave a comment. I try to respond to everybody as quickly as I can. And any of the future suggestions for paintings, I add that to my production list and get to them as quickly as I can. So in the meantime, please keep getting creative. Let me know how you're doing. And until next time, cheers.